Iran blew up a fully loaded oil supertanker inside Dubai harbor last night, and your gas hit $4 this morning. And one analyst told CNN on camera that $5 is now not just possible, it is likely. Iran is not blocking shipping anymore. Iran is destroying it, ship by ship, port by port. And April 6th is 6 days away. The tanker was named the Al-Salmi. It is a very large crude carrier, 332 meters long, one of the biggest vessels that exists on Earth. It was carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil, 2 million barrels, loaded in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait more than a month ago, and then stuck, unable to move because the Strait of Hormuz has been closed since March 4th, and there was nowhere to go. So the Al-Salmi sat. It sat in the anchorage zone off Dubai port for over 30 days with its full cargo, its 24 crew members, its 2 million barrels, waiting for a war to end. And just after midnight on Monday night, an Iranian drone found it in the dark, flew straight into its starboard side, punched through the hull, and set it on fire. Multiple explosions echoed across Dubai from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. The fireball was visible from the city skyline. Maritime firefighters battled the blaze for hours. And when dawn broke on Tuesday, the Al-Salmi was still afloat, the fire was out, all 24 crew were safe. But something else had happened that no fire truck can extinguish. Iran had just demonstrated to every shipping company, every tanker captain, every insurance underwriter, and every government in the Persian Gulf that nowhere inside the Gulf is safe anymore. Not in the open water near Hormuz, not in the shipping lanes near Kuwait, and not in the anchorage zone of the most important commercial port in the Middle East, Dubai, the city that built its entire global identity on being the safe, stable, business-friendly hub of the region. Iran just burned a tanker in its harbor. Let us be precise about what just happened in Dubai, because the location of this attack is the detail that makes it categorically different from every other maritime incident in this war. The Al-Salmi was not caught in the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point where Iranian military power is most concentrated. It was not near Iranian territorial waters. It was not near any active combat zone. It was anchored 31 nautical miles northwest of Dubai port, in the anchorage zone where ships wait before entering the port to load, unload, refuel, and take on supplies. That anchorage is where the commercial shipping world parks. It is the waiting room of global trade in this part of the world. And according to Bloomberg, on Tuesday morning, there were more than 400 ships of all types in and around the same anchorage zone where the Al-Salmi was hit. 400 ships, supertankers, container vessels, bulk carriers, LNG tankers, all of them trapped, all of them waiting. All of them now sitting in a location that Iran just proved it can reach with a drone at midnight and set on fire. The Al-Salmi had been there since late February. It had been broadcasting its identity, flying the Kuwaiti flag, at times switching its destination signal to say it was bound for China's Qingdao, trying to signal neutrality, trying to avoid being a target. None of that mattered. The drone found it anyway. And the captains of every one of those other 399 ships in the same anchorage woke up on Tuesday morning and had to make the same calculation the Al-Salmi's owners made a month ago and got wrong. Do I stay here and risk being next? Or do I move and risk being caught in transit? The numbers behind the American gas price crossing $4 today are the numbers that connect the Al-Salmi burning in Dubai directly to your driveway. The national average price for a gallon of regular unleaded gasoline crossed $4.01 on Tuesday morning, according to AAA, the travel association that tracks pump prices across every state in the country. That is the first time America has seen a $4 national average since August 2022, when Russia's invasion of Ukraine shook global energy markets. Gas has risen more than $1 per gallon since February 26th, 2 days before Operation Epic Fury launched, a 32% increase in 32 days. But the $4 national average is not the number that should terrify you. The number that should terrify you is what is happening at the state level right now. In California, the average on March 31st, according to GasBuddy, is $5.87 per gallon. Los Angeles specifically hit $5.99. The energy economist Philip Verlager wrote in a note that the U.S. West Coast will become what he called the poster child for the consequences of the attacks on Iran. Diesel, which powers every truck that moves food, every construction vehicle, every farm machine in this country, hit $5.45 nationally on Tuesday, according to AAA. That is up 45% since the war started. The chief economist at RSM, Joe Brusuelas, estimated to Bloomberg that a 10% rise in diesel pushes up the headline consumer price index by 0.1%. Diesel is up 45%. Do that math. And Patrick DeHaan, the head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy, told NBC News on March 20th that this is really quickly going to ignite additional inflation. That inflation has not fully shown up in your grocery bill yet. It is coming. The Brookings Institute's Director of Energy Security, Samantha Gross, put it directly when she said markets are so far underestimating the effect of the war. It seems that they expect this war to go quickly, and they expect that we can go back to the world before when it is over. We have not seen the brunt of it yet. The most frightening forecast about where American gas prices go from here did not come from a political activist or an opposition senator. It came from Bob McNally, president of Rapidan Energy Group and a former energy advisor to President George W. Bush. He told CNN in a direct interview on Tuesday that oil prices will likely keep rising if the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively shut by Iran. And then he said the words that no American filling up their tank on the way to work wants to hear. There are good chances, he said, that gas prices take out the 2022 record high of $5.02 per gallon. Good chances, from a former White House energy advisor, of a national average of $5 per gallon. And that forecast was made before the Al-Salmi fire, before Iran demonstrated that it can hit a supertanker in Dubai harbor in the middle of the night. Every time Iran hits another piece of energy infrastructure, every time another vessel is attacked, every time the war produces a new development that signals the Strait of Hormuz will not reopen on April 6th, as Trump demanded, the forecast moves further upward. Analysts speaking to Reuters specifically said that if Karg Island were to be seriously damaged in this conflict, Brent crude prices could hit $120 per barrel. Some analysts went further and said $200 is not impossible in a worst-case scenario. Brent is at $112 today. $200 would be a level the world has never seen. It would mean American gas prices that no living driver has ever paid at a normal pump. And Iran just burned a tanker in Dubai to remind you that it has not run out of options. Let us talk about what 400 trapped ships in the Dubai anchorage actually means for the American economy, because the shipping crisis is not just an oil story. Inside that anchorage right now are container ships full of goods that were supposed to be on American shelves weeks ago. Manufacturers in Asia who make the components that go into American-assembled products cannot ship through the Persian Gulf. Retailers who placed orders months ago are watching their supply chains back up in real time. The economic impact of the 2026 Iran war Wikipedia article, which is being continuously updated by analysts tracking the conflict, describes a systemic collapse of the Gulf Cooperation Council economic model. It notes that the war has caused 70% of the Gulf region's food imports to be disrupted. Not oil, food. And 40% of the world's nitrogen fertilizer passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Nitrogen fertilizer is what American farmers put on their fields to grow corn, wheat, and soybeans. Since the war started, urea prices are up 50%, and ammonia prices are up 20%. MIT energy economist Christopher Niddle told Fortune directly that historically oil price shocks like this have led to global recessions, and that what we are seeing is infrastructure actually being destroyed, which means the ramifications of this war are going to be long-lived. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell acknowledged last week that when it comes to predicting the war's future economic impact, nobody knows. The economic effects could be bigger, he said. They could be smaller, they could be much smaller or much bigger. We just do not know. When the chairman of the Federal Reserve describes the outlook for the American economy with the phrase, "we just do not know," that is not reassurance. That is a confession that the war has pushed the American economy into territory that no economic model can reliably navigate. Now, let us talk about where the Al-Salmi attack fits inside the broader Iranian military strategy in the Persian Gulf, because there is a pattern here that is becoming impossible to ignore. Iran is not attacking randomly. It is not firing at every ship it can find. It is demonstrating capabilities selectively and precisely in ways that send specific messages to specific audiences at specific moments. The last reported maritime incident before the Al-Salmi was on March 21st, 10 days earlier, when a bulk carrier reported a near miss near Hormuz. There was a 10-day pause. During those 10 days, the diplomatic track was active. The Islamabad summit was happening. Trump was extending his deadline and claiming great progress. Iran was allowing a handful of Pakistani-flagged ships through Hormuz in a gesture of good faith. And then on the same night that Trump posted on Truth Social threatening to obliterate Iran's oil wells and Karg Island and desalination plants, Iran flew a drone into the Al-Salmi in Dubai harbor. The timing is not coincidental. Every escalation Iran has made in this war has followed American escalation. Trump threatens to obliterate Iran's civilian water supply. Iran burns a tanker in Dubai harbor the same night. That is a message, not to the Al-Salmi's owners, to Trump, to every oil executive watching the war, to every analyst trying to predict when and how this ends. The message is that Iran has the capability and the will to reach inside the safest commercial port in the Gulf and set a supertanker on fire. And it will do exactly that every time Washington escalates its rhetoric. The question of whether Iran will do this again is not whether it can. Tuesday proved it can. The question is whether the Islamabad diplomatic track and the April 6th deadline can produce a result that makes Iran decide it does not need to. The American military dimension of Tuesday's events deserves its own analysis, because the Pentagon briefing held by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane on Tuesday morning was the first time the military leadership had faced press questions about the war in nearly 2 weeks. 12 days of silence from the Pentagon while everything described above has been happening. Hegseth's appearance produced a sentence that should have been the headline of every news outlet in America. He said the United States military aims to be unpredictable when it comes to having American boots on the ground in Iran. Unpredictable. That is the word the Secretary of Defense used to describe whether American soldiers are going into Iran. Not no, not yet. Unpredictable. He also declined to answer a direct question about the timeline of the war and said, do not tell your enemy what you are willing to do or not do, and do not tell your enemy when you are willing to stop. He then said the soldiers he met at U.S. bases over the weekend, soldiers who had just returned from flying missions over Iran, said, let us finish the mission. The Secretary of Defense is telling the press he wants to be unpredictable on ground troops. The soldiers want to finish the mission. Trump is saying a deal is close. Vance said neuter them for a very long time. Rubio said no ground troops in weeks, not months. The Al-Salmi is burning in Dubai harbor. Gas is $4 nationally and nearly $6 in Los Angeles. And April 6th is 6 days away. Every one of those things is simultaneously true right now. There is one specific quote from Tuesday's coverage that should be printed on a card and kept in the wallet of every American adult who wants to understand what is actually happening to their financial future right now. It came from an MIT economist named Christopher Niddle, who was speaking to Fortune magazine. He said a week ago, or certainly 2 weeks ago, I would have said if the war stopped that day, the long-term implications would be pretty small. But what we are seeing is infrastructure actually being destroyed, which means the ramifications of this war are going to be long-lived. Infrastructure actually being destroyed. He is not talking about military targets. He is talking about oil refineries, gas fields, desalination plants, LNG terminals, supertankers, the physical machinery of global energy supply. When the Ras Laffan LNG facility in Qatar was damaged in the first week of the war, analysts said it would take 3 to 5 years to restore 17% of global LNG capacity. That is not a price spike that goes away when Trump posts that a deal is close. That is a structural wound in the global energy system that bleeds for years. Now add the Al-Salmi, add the Kuwait desalination plant, add the Haifa refinery debris, add the Isfahan nuclear facility struck overnight on Tuesday, add the 400 ships sitting trapped in Dubai's anchorage, unable to move in either direction. The infrastructure destruction is accumulating every single day this war continues. And every day of destruction extends the economic recovery timeline further out into the future. This is not a temporary gas price spike. This is the beginning of an energy price environment that will still be affecting American household budgets in 2027. April 6th is 6 days away. That deadline is either the most important date in the global economy right now, or it is going to be the 4th date that Trump announces has been extended, in which case every oil market analyst in the world will have to recalibrate every model they have built around the assumption that American deadlines mean something. If Hormuz does not open by April 6th, then Trump extends again, Brent crude breaks 120. If Trump strikes Iran's power plants and oil wells as he threatened, Iran will retaliate at a scale that dwarfs the Al-Salmi. If Trump sends ground troops to Karg Island, Iran has said its military is waiting to set those troops on fire. And if somehow a deal is reached in the next 6 days, the infrastructure destruction that has already happened means gas prices do not immediately fall back to $3. They fall slowly, over months, maybe years. There is no version of April 6th that leaves the American family at the gas pump exactly where they were on February 27th. The question is only how much higher the number on that pump goes before it starts coming back down. This channel has covered every development in this war from day one, and the community here has understood the economic reality of this conflict weeks before the mainstream media caught up. Drop a comment right now and tell us what you think happens when April 6th arrives. Do you think a deal gets done? Do you think Trump strikes the power plants? Do you think this extends again? Because what you think matters. The people following this story closely have been right about the big calls more often than the paid analysts. And this is the biggest call of the entire war.